we're going to dive into the core of data analytics. We're going to use this input or this data and transform it into valuable information. We have 4 different years from 2020 to 2023. So now we want to consolidate or combine. We want to stack. That's the new word that we're going to use today. All of this information into one sheet. Create a new sheet. So we're going to call it analytics. Now, if we look closely here, we see that this data is already cleaned, but it's not consolidated. So the process is dynamically transform this data so that any changes, any edits, any additions are automatically reflected in the centralized database. We're going to start with the VSTACK. So first I'm going to copy the header because I'm going to use the header as a reference, and I'm going to start also with cell B5 just to maintain that consistency. You need to ensure that you have consistency in the headers, because if you have other information, then you're going to have a messy data. Equal VSTACK. Okay. Now VSTACK means vertically stack the information on top of each other. Stack, go to year 2020, and simply Control Shift right down arrow. And I'm going to use the comma. So that's the first array. If you see the first array, it means the first set of data. We're going to go to year 2021. We're going to repeat the process. Control Shift right arrow, down arrow, or you can just select all the data. And then 2022, same thing. Control Shift right down, comma, 2023, Control Shift right down. And then you simply close the parentheses, and here you have all the data stacked in one place. The problem here with just using the formula VSTACK is that if you add certain lines, they will not be accounted for. We're going to go with the VSTACK and filter function. So I'm going to copy and paste the header again, but I'm going to go all the way to the right and go to N5 and put it back here. So now we're going to go with the VSTACK and filter, and we're going to use the 3D reference. So instead of selecting the set of data as is, we're going to reference all the sheets. How do we reference the VSTACK in a 3D way? So again, VSTACK, we just select year 2020. We don't select any data in it. We press the Shift button, we keep pressing on it, and we press 2023. If you look up, you're going to see 2020 colon 2023. If you go all the way down, you can see all of those 4 years or sheets have been selected. Okay? And then I go to year 2020, Control Shift, right arrow, down arrow. So I only select 1 year. I don't have to select all of them. Okay? And I close the parentheses, and voila, I'm done. The only problem with this approach is that it's going to assume that all the sheets that I've selected, all of these 4 years, end at row L3483. What I do is that I take the year with the most rows, which is the 4036, I believe, and I just adjust the number here. But I'm going to be generous. I'm going to account for any additions in the future. So instead of just using 4036, which is the year with the highest number of rows, I'm going to, let's say, use 4500. Okay, just add more rows in case we have certain data in them. And enter. The problem is I'm going to have a lot of zeros. I'm going to reference a lot of rows that do not even have data. For example, here, in year 2020, I have data up to line 3000. That's too far. Okay, 3483. But then I have all of the rows empty until L4500. So how do I avoid this problem? Here we're going to introduce the filter function. So before the word VSTACK, between the equal and the VSTACK, I'm going to add the filter function. Okay, So here we have an array. We're going to keep the array as is, but I'm going to copy the array because I'm going to paste it going forward, copy. And then at the end, I'm going to put comma. I have include. So what do I need to include? I need to include certain set of data. So I'm going to paste. I have the letter B, which is the column B, all the way to letter L. So I have more than one row. I cannot include more than one row. So all I have to do is I'm going to change the letter L to the letter B. So I'm referencing only one column, which is column B. I'm going to keep the numbers as is. And I'm going to put the smaller or greater than 0. So, empty. Greater than 0, and which is the quotation open, quotation close, that's just quotation. So if it's empty, if there's nothing in this row, disregard it. Okay? So I'm gonna just disregard anything that is empty. I'm gonna include everything that is higher or lower than empty. That's what the formula states. And then I just simply close the parentheses, enter. You see that nothing happened to the data, but actually it does. So if I go all the way down, okay, you see, I jumped from year, should be somewhere here. Yep, 2020. I'm just gonna highlight it for the sake of this. Okay, so 2020, 2021, I no longer have any zeros. Now, what will happen if I add information? So if I go to year 2020, I go all the way down, I put year 2020. Let's just put USA to differentiate from Canada. I'm gonna put my name just to be able to trace it easily. And I'm gonna go to the analytics. I can easily see that Gabby has been added. And again, 2021 is starting with Canada. So it's just been pushed one more row. Again, because I have accounted for 4,500 rows and I'm only accounting for cells that are active.